All right, guys. How's everybody doing? That shouldn't have fallen off. Let's try that again. There we go. That's awesome. All right, let's try it again. So, hey, everybody. And we have a very special podcast today that we're excited about. And our own Dr. Elizabeth Martin was nice enough to come in and give us some time so she can answer some of the common questions and concerns that are coming up in relation to the coronavirus and how we can try and stay healthy and get through this whole thing. So we want to welcome Elizabeth, and Paige is here as well. Elizabeth, could you just tell everybody your background?
Sure. So I am a board-certified infectious disease physician. I have boards in both internal medicine and infectious disease. I did my training both right here at Jersey Shore and up at Yale. And right now I do drug development. I work in virology, mostly in HIV. And so I run drug trials and monitoring patients who are in experimental trials for HIV. Okay. And I also still see patients. I was actually just this morning at the clinic, at the HIV clinic in Neptune, seeing patients. So coronavirus has become one of my new favorite topics to talk about.
I bet. You're the most popular person everywhere right now, for good or for bad.
Let me just bring this just a little closer for you, Elizabeth.
There we go. So what questions did you want to start out with, Paige? I know we had a lot.
Well, Elizabeth, if you could just talk to us about the coronavirus, how it started, and what are the things that we should be doing that are real life things, not the things we're reading on Facebook and hearing from.
Isn't
our
Facebook
neighbor.
a good place to learn things?
Well, you can learn things. They may not be the right things.
Not accurate things.
So first, I'll say that coronaviruses are a family of viruses. And we call this the novel coronavirus, the COVID-19, which is the name of the disease. SARS-CoV-2 is the name of the virus. But coronaviruses in general have been around forever. So some of the ones that you may have heard about before are SARS, the original SARS from a few years ago, which was primarily in Asia, or there were a few cases in Europe and Canada. There was also MERS, the Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, which was also primarily in the Middle East. But there's also other human coronaviruses that cause the common cold. And we have all been exposed to them over and over again. So that's just something that has always been around, circulating, probably a little bit more common in the fall and winter, but kind of all around every season you can get a cold that may be caused by a coronavirus. Animals can also have coronaviruses. And in this case, we think that this originated possibly in bats, or maybe some other type of small animal. And the way this happens is that the virus will circulate in an animal, and humans come in contact with these animals, and there is some type of mutation in the virus that allows it to infect humans. So there are animal viruses, there's human viruses. Not all of them go back and forth. Some people who maybe have a veterinary background may know about different vaccines for animal viruses that aren't things that we ever get infected with. But in this case, there are certain situations where a virus can mutate to the point where it can infect a human, and then not just infect a human, but infect a human and remain in that person, and then that virus can then go from one human to another. So for example, there have been other types of flu, bird flu, where it's going from animal to human, but it doesn't really seem to go much further than that, or at least not very easily. And in this case, this went from animal to human, and then human to human to human, and then has really taken off.
So what makes this virus so special that the spread on it seems so much different than the other viruses like SARS and MERS and everything else?
So SARS and MERS are a little bit, let me go back to why this virus is different. So it's novel, meaning that it's never been seen in humans before, which means that we don't have any immunity to it. So when even a seasonal flu comes along, even if you haven't had a flu vaccine, most people have some immunity to flu just because at some point in their life they've either had a flu shot or they've had the flu, even if they didn't know that they had the flu. So you have some immunity. So when your typical seasonal flu comes through, it can be really bad. But you've got your immune memory cells kind of say, hey, I remember this. So it can sort of fight it off. You may get sick, but not as super sick. In this case, we don't have any antibodies to this. We don't have any immunity to this because we've never seen this type of virus before. We've seen coronaviruses. We've never seen this coronavirus before. So it's different enough that no one in the community has any type of immunity. No one's been vaccinated for it. And so it just really starts to spread. Now, why it's spreading a little bit differently than, say, SARS number 1 or MERS, which didn't seem to spread as quickly, I'm not really sure, but one of the theories is that in those particular viruses, people get so sick and they get sick very quickly. They're just not out and about long enough to be able to infect other people.
Oh,
that makes sense.
Yeah. So, and that's true when you think about some other diseases too, where people just get really sick really fast. You just don't really have an opportunity to spread it to people. Also, it seemed that with those two, there wasn't much asymptomatic spread. So even if you were infected, you weren't spreading it to people until you became symptomatic, until you actually had the cough. Here, I think one of the things that's more concerning from a public health standpoint is that it seems that people who have been exposed and are infected but aren't yet having any symptoms, they still seem to be able to spread it to other people.
Okay.
So I've heard that a lot of people will end up getting the coronavirus.
Yeah, that's probably
but will not even know they had it, or maybe thought it was just a mild cold.
Yep.
So that's accurate.
That's very accurate. It's entirely possible that some of us in the community have already been exposed, maybe already had it. So if we look at the history of what's happened with this disease, so we know that it started in China, particularly in the Hubei province, in the city of Wuhan. And, China is a very, very densely populated country, and their cities, even what's considered a small city, is still much more crowded than any of our cities.
I was so surprised when I was looking at pictures and I saw the population. It blew my mind how populated, how on top of each other they were living.
Yes.
So it made a whole heck of a lot more sense why it spread so quickly.
Right. So you have a lot of people in a very small area, so it can spread very quickly. Now, the initial reports about this were coming out around December. So that was when we really started to hear about it. It seemed like it was pretty localized. By January, it was really spreading throughout more of China. But if you look back, there is some speculation that maybe it was actually circulating much longer than that throughout China. Whether it was just in that one area or if it had gone to other cities like Shanghai and Beijing, that's not really clear. But one of the things that's important to remember is that there's, I think, 12,000 people a day who come from China to the United States on flights.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
There's a lot of people back and forth, right?
Wow.
So if there was virus circulating in the community, even just what appeared to be a common cold or maybe a bad flu, and you have 12,000 people coming over every single day, and this went unnoticed for a month or more, there were a lot of people who maybe had already brought it over. So it could very well had already been circulating in the community long before we ever even knew it, especially in our bigger cities, ports of entry, places where people are flying into, whether it's for vacation or business.
And so then if people had gotten it before we had ever identified it, then they would have thought they had the cold or the flu.
Exactly.
Which it is winter, and a lot of people have gotten the cold and the flu over the past several months.
Yeah, a lot of people have gotten the flu, and they just sort of managed on their own. They never went to the doctor because they didn't need to. Got over it, so never got a test to say, yes, you have it, no, you don't. And that's perfectly fine. People just kind of get over things. Same thing with a cold, or maybe you have that lingering cough that's been going on and you go, gee, maybe I just had a cold. Well, maybe you had COVID-19. Don't know. We just don't know.
But you shouldn't panic if you playing that back in your head, like,
you should say, wow,
cold.
That's great. I got this infection and I got through it. And really the vast majority of people who are getting this really regardless of age, because even though we're talking about mortality rates and being higher at an older age and with people who have other conditions, all of that's true. The vast majority of people not only recover, but actually have a fairly mild illness. So about 80% or more have a pretty mild illness.
Okay.
When you look at those who have a more severe illness or who need to be hospitalized, it does tend to be older people. But I just was reading this morning one of the studies out of China looking at the first 1,000 people who were diagnosed. And what was kind of the age distribution and how severe was their illness. The median age, which means the middle age, was about 47. And so you have kind of an even number of people older and younger than that who were getting infected. About 80% of those were mild infection, which means that 20% of them were a more severe infection. And of that severe infection, let's say, I think about 15% or so needed to be hospitalized. But again, when you look at these studies that are saying this percentage of people were sick, this percentage of people needed to be hospitalized, this percentage of people died, those were the people who actually presented. Those people who just had a cold and never knew,
you wouldn't even know.
They don't even get counted,
Wow.
right? So just on the math alone, you could have much bigger numbers.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Than you'd ever even imagine, because they just never presented.
So how they're talking about the mortality rate and all of that. That information is really at this point very skewed because we're not testing everyone who presents with these symptoms.
That's right. And I think we can't really extrapolate specific numbers and say, if you're this age and you get coronavirus, you have this percentage chance of dying.
Yeah.
What we can say is there are trends. And the trends are definitely that children seem to either not get this at all or have an incredibly mild infection. In fact, of that first 1,000 people from that study that I was reading, there was only 9 kids from age 14 or under who even were sick at all.
Wow.
And all of them had a mild infection.
Do they have any idea why?
So there's all sorts of theories as to why. And one of them is that the way the virus attaches in the lungs, it's possible that the receptor just either isn't developed the same way or that there's some reason why the virus does not seem to get into the lungs the same way it does in adults or even older teenagers, the way that it doesn't seem to in kids the way that it can in adults.
Wow.
The other theory, and this one's kind of interesting, is that kids are constantly getting sick with colds.
They're like little petri dishes.
Right.
Yeah,
germs.
Yeah.
And they're exposed to all these other coronaviruses constantly over and over and over again, that maybe there's some cross immunity, that they're a little bit more protected than everyone else who's not getting sick quite as often.
That's interesting.
So there might be an immunity there for a kindergarten teacher.
That
there isn't there for someone who is sitting in a cubicle.
We don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know. So that's a really interesting thing that I think after this is all over, we're going to be, scientists are going to be looking at to see why were kids so spared, thankfully, right?
No.
Yeah.
Thank God.
And then on the other end of the spectrum, it's older people who are sick. And the cutoff seems to be somewhere around 60 to 70, where that's where you see people getting more severe infection. And again, the trend seems to be with older age, with more severe infection, there is a higher mortality rate. When you look at people who are 80 years old or over, the curve kind of looks like the mortality rate is like 15 to 20%. But that also means that 80% of them recover.
Yeah.
So, even in the sickest of the sick and in the most frail people are really recovering from this quite I want to say it quite well because I don't know the long-term outcomes.
Sure.
But people are recovering.
Not quite as scary as what a lot of people hear those numbers and they just freak out, right?
Completely freak out.
And it causes panic and
buy toilet paper
they
for
buy
the next year, right?
Yeah, that's a lot of toilet paper.
Yeah, the panic buying of toilet paper, I don't understand at all.
I know Costco's making a lot of money.
They are.
A lot of money.
Definitely Purell.
Purell, yeah.
Oh my gosh,
I stock at Purell.
anywhere.
Yeah.
Anywhere.
So if the numbers are making you scared, number one, I think they shouldn't, because it's very much evolving. Some of this is going to be country by country. Different populations are going to be impacted differently. If you look at what happened, unfortunately, in Washington State, where it seemed like there was an outbreak in a nursing home, obviously it's going to be much worse, because those are people who are older and frail already, right?
Totally.
Because this isn't an 80-year-old who's, coming to CrossFit.
No,
this is an 80-year-old.
It's like in a nursing home with health.
Possibly with health issues already. Battling other conditions.
Yes.
Which makes them more susceptible to having a more severe reaction.
Right.
Obviously.
So the things that seem to put people at higher risk of having a more severe infection or needing hospitalization include age, especially age over 60 to 70, and other medical conditions, particularly diabetes, heart disease, and high blood pressure. I was surprised to see that actually smoking was not as associated as I thought it would have been. There are a high percentage of people in China smoke. And so that information was coming out, and it looked like smoking or not.
It didn't matter.
It didn't seem to matter. They got infected at the same amount. They got super sick in the same amount, recovered in the same amount.
That's mind-blowing. I would have lost money on that.
That was kind of interesting,
too. Now, I had heard something or read something, I don't know. The media is coming at you from so many different angles with all of this information, that if you were a heavy drinker, that you are more susceptible to having a difficult time if you got the coronavirus.
So I haven't seen that, but what I did see, and this was in one of the journal articles that I had seen about this, is, and it makes perfect logical sense, right? So it's one of the things as information is coming at you, you got to think, does this make biological sense, right? So we know that diabetes, hypertension, and heart disease are associated with worse outcomes or a more difficult course of the disease. Obesity also seems to be related as well, but that kind of makes sense because those diseases are obesity related.
They go together,
okay.
Sure.
Right, yeah. So those seem to be the main risk factors. If you hear something like alcohol, maybe, but, there's a huge difference between having a Corona, having a couple glasses of wine, or actually having
an issue.
An issue, right?
Totally.
And you're already going to be at a very different state of conditioning at that point too. So, which
is very logical and makes total sense,
right?
And I'm sure they probably high blood pressure and everything else is associated as well.
Totally associated with these things too. So it's like your overall state of health. So the other part of what you had asked before was, what are some kind of real rational things that can be done? The CDC actually has some really good information out right now. If you go to their website about what you can do, and it even has it broken down by different types of activities, like if you're traveling, if you're a healthcare professional, or just if you're an average everyday person and you want to know what you can do to protect yourself. So the social distancing seems to be really helpful. So kind of keeping people apart, not too close. It doesn't mean that you have to go inside your house and seal off your doors.
Yes.
As much as some people may want to.
I think it might be an excuse for some people.
I think some people are like, yes, finally.
Yes, exactly. There's definitely some people who've been thinking, I've been preparing for this my entire life. I have always wanted this. So you don't need to do that, but you should try to not be in a really crowded area. Try to keep some distance. And what we've seen from the examples from China and what they did in South Korea and Singapore, we can see that actually worked, right? So that can also make you very hopeful. You're not just doing these things and they're not going to help, but that can actually help. Staying a couple feet away, I think they say like 4 to 6 feet is probably the best. So that is one good thing to do.
Which is great because close talkers really freak me out. Like even if nothing's going on and you're here, like really kind of, I feel like somebody's going to take my wallet. I don't know what's going on. So.
And with close talkers, how you always take like a step back.
Yeah, but they come right in. It's like a magnet. They're still coming in. So now I could just be like, Corona, man. Just like, can we just separate?
I need my Corona space.
Corona space.
Corona
Hashtag
space.
Corona space. Oh man, that could save me.
You need to get that
Because
website
it freaks me out. So that's the only thing I'm happy about.
couple other things, and we've said it. Everyone has said it. You guys have said it. Everyone is saying it. Wash your hands.
Oh.
And that is so important. And I think that there are many times in the day when we think, of course I wash my hands. I use the restroom. I've just, touched a raw chicken. I've just been out in the garden. Like, yeah, I washed my hands. But think about all the other times during the day that you're not.
Yes.
And try to be more mindful of that. Maybe even set a timer for yourself on your phone. Like, gee, it's been 2 hours. I should probably wash my hands. Washing your hands is fantastic. The hand sanitizer is nice. It's great if you have no other option, if there's nothing else there. It's not a replacement for washing your hands.
So it's like the thing you keep it in your car. Keep it in your purse.
Yeah.
The hand sanitizer,
Exactly.
Just ran to the store and picked up some extra.
And then when you get home, wash your hands.
Exactly.
And then as soon as you get home, wash your hands really good. And to wash your hands, not only just wash your hands, but sing a song. We've posted in our bathrooms downstairs, "We Will Rock You," and lyrics to go along with hand washing to remind you that hand washing is not a 3-second thing.
No,
it's a 20 to 30 second thing.
And this is hard to remind, especially for those who have kids, to get them to wash their hands long enough. My kids just stick their hands under the water. And
they're like, I'm good.
They're, I'm good. I washed my hands.
Yeah.
No, and actually make them wash their hands. My daughter's kindergarten teacher showed them how to use an old toothbrush to get under their fingernails, which is actually really good too. Just make sure that they're not using the same. You got to watch that with the little ones.
Yeah.
They'll just use that same
teeth.
toothbrush.
Funny story is that Brad recently.
Oh man, our one son.
We've been laughing so hard about it too for months. Probably 6 months now. He's been washing his hands like a surgeon.
Before all this.
It's to the point where we're all sitting there waiting.
We're like, Dr. Brad, you're not going to surgery. Get out here. Like a couple of minutes.
You don't have to wash your hands for 2 minutes. And now we're all like,
oh man.
Brad had it right the whole
it's just
time.
kind of looking at us like, told you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Wash your hands really well. Probably more often right now than you even think that you need to. Because I'm an infectious disease doctor who knows about all types of infections, I'll also warn you that your hands can get dried out.
Yes.
Try to put lotion on because you don't want to get bacterial infections in your skin.
Because you're overwashing.
Because you're overwashing because you have dry.
Yeah, I started realizing my hands started getting dry. So Paige's like, no, you're not using lotion.
Well, I'm one of those, I have to put lotion on my hands after I wash them. I have dry skin to begin with, and he's always made fun of me. So now he's on my team.
Yeah.
Well, do I look like a hand lotion guy?
No, you don't.
Well, I am now.
Yes,
so
you are.
So distancing, washing, and wiping down surfaces is a very reasonable thing to do. That's also one of the recommendations from the CDC. And what they say is in your home, once a day is sufficient. You don't need to become obsessive about it. Because remember, you're trying to take reasonable measures. Mm-hmm. Your home, the gym, and the entire world that we live in are not sterile. They're not an operating room. You are not going to have a sterile home. You can have a clean home. You can have a clean area. You can make it as clean as you possibly can. It's not going to be sterile.
Sure.
But it's totally reasonable to wipe down surfaces with a disinfectant wipe or with a bleach water mix. And do that about once a day and go for the high touch surfaces. So doorknobs, keypads, light switches, countertops, in the bathroom, the flusher, the faucet. And then think about, kind of walk through your day and think about all the things that you touch a lot that you may not even realize it. The railings.
Yes.
Okay. The remote control for the TV,
so
right?
I'd hate to see that under a black light.
Video game controllers. Your cell phone, right? We touch this all day long. It's probably worth wiping this down more than once a day because it's in your hands constantly. People take this into the bathroom with them all the time.
Yeah, no.
It is, you need to clean that. Your key fob for your car. Something else you probably don't think about. How much. And then think about in your car, your steering wheel, the center console, right?
Door handle.
The door handle, right. So
we got a lot of cleaning to do.
Tell me about it.
but again, this is a once a day thing.
Okay.
Maybe in the morning,
Right.
maybe at night before you go to bed, you wipe everything down. So you're going to start the day off with everything clean. And look at the instructions of whatever your disinfectant is. You will be surprised what you find. Some say that in order to actually disinfect the surface, it has to remain wet for at least 4 minutes, sometimes up to 10 minutes.
Wow.
Think about when you pop out one of those wipes and you wipe off the counter.
Yeah.
You've cleaned it.
Yeah.
You haven't actually disinfected it unless it's stayed wet for the amount of time that it says on the back of the canister.
So if I wiped it down, it was wet, and then I took a paper towel and dried it, it would be ineffective.
That would be ineffective,
Okay.
right?
That's
Yeah.
good. That's good to know.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So wipe down your car at the end of the day before you go in at night. Because then it will stay wet. You're not wiping it right down before you.
It
drive
could
to
stay
work
wet.
or
You know,
something like that.
Some of this stuff has alcohol in it too, so it dries pretty
Yeah.
quickly. So you just have to kind of be aware of how long it takes whatever you're using to dry to clean. You may need to use 2 or 3 wet things and just keep going over it for a while.
Yeah.
For it to stay wet
For
for
that long.
4 minutes or for however
works.
long
That makes
it's
sense.
required
That
to.
does make sense.
And make sure you think about in your kitchen things like cabinets, drawers, handles, the refrigerator,
knobs, yeah.
the dishwasher, handle, everything that you are going to touch a lot. But always remind yourself, like, you're just doing the best that you can.
Right.
You can't make it sterile. It won't be sterile. It's just going to be clean.
Clean.
And that's really the best that you can do.
Okay.
So I think those are very reasonable things. The phone and the key fob, I think, are often
That's huge.
forgotten about.
Yeah, absolutely.
For a long time, Apple was saying don't wipe the phone with anything
I
except
Yeah, because
a
they
dry
have this-
like
cloth.
some sort of oil or something
Yeah,
like that.
I don't know, but so I've got a case on my phone, plus I have a screen protector, and I actually have like straight up bleach wipes, and I just wrapped my phone in the bleach wipe and just leave it for like 10 minutes, and the same thing with the key fob. I just wrap it up in one of those
That's
and
great.
just let it sit for
That's
a little bit,
great
and that's
idea.
good.
That's a great idea.
I like that.
So, yeah.
We could do that.
Yeah, definitely.
So now, just like some questions that we're hearing. So in our gym, right? We're lucky enough to have 10,000 square feet of space. So we normally
really
spread
lucky.
people out, but keeping that 6-foot distance from each person is helpful, right?
Yep.
What about like, the questions came up, like you mentioned about people going to like weddings and things like that, if they're even happening. I mean, from what we're hearing, a lot of large
Yeah.
events with lots of people under one roof seem to be getting canceled anyway.
Yeah, so it does sound like a lot of things are being canceled, birthday parties, and this is really hard for everyone on both sides, right? So if you're hosting something, you want all these people there, but you don't want to put people at risk.
Yeah.
Right.
And if you are a guest, you don't want to back out,
No.
and you don't want to be that guy, right? You don't want to be that family.
Yeah,
You don't want to
totally.
be, right? It's like, they're scared of the coronavirus, but you're going to have to make a decision about what's best for you, I think, on a case-by-case basis. So think about, where is it? Is this event being held in an area where there seems to be a lot of community transmission? Thankfully, in our area right now, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of community transmission.
Isn't it a great time to live in a small fishing town?
It is.
Yeah, man.
It is a great time to be in this little town where we can spread out
Yes.
pretty easily,
Yeah,
too.
totally.
We don't have to take public transportation everywhere.
No,
So,
isn't that wonderful?
so eventually you have to just take it on a case-by-case basis. You may feel very differently about going to a wedding with 200 people who you
Right.
don't know versus 5 of your friends are having some dinner together, and, are we going to go out? Are we going to stay in? So it's really just going to have to be based on what you think. Someone asked me today about a birthday party at a bounce house. I'm like, those things are filthy at baseline.
Yeah,
They're-
bounce house on a good day.
Exactly. Bounce house, forget coronavirus. They're
It was
never
nasty.
clean.
No,
or
ever.
A ball pit.
Or ball pits.
Ball pits, man.
Yeah,
No.
a bounce house they can probably wipe down. I don't know what you do with a
Ball
pit.
pit, you burn it.
You burn it. That's it. Yeah, so you have to just kind of make those decisions. If you're hosting an event, you may want to think about, if you don't have to cancel it, adjusting what you're doing.
Right.
So maybe you will either have it in a bigger place so that there's more space, or have a smaller group of people, or just kind of think through the risks of what you're doing. If, this isn't going to go on forever.
Right.
anything that's kind of canceled is really just postponed.
Right.
It will happen. It'll just happen when this is over.
When things calm down.
Yeah.
So what do you suggest for people to do to help keep their morale, their immune system, and life as normal as possible in this kind of strange situation? I mean, we were equating a lot of it to like Sandy, like Sandy kind of just like stopped the entire area on a dime. This is different. I feel like there's more panicking, a little less humanity over the toilet paper situation.
Yeah, people get weird about TP apparently.
Yeah, they do. I mean, doesn't everybody have just like that extra little stock of TP in the corner of their closet? Because I know we do. It might be a good habit for them to start.
It should.
Yeah. What do you suggest to help not only the physical immunity, but also the
mental anxiety of it all.
Anxiety of dealing with this.
Yeah, so I mean, those two things are actually really connected. But so first, I'll start with the physical part. Now, I've been asked by a couple of people, like, what am I supposed to take something? Is there something that can protect me? Is there something that can boost my immune system? If you flip on the TV and on YouTube too, I've seen people selling jars and bottles of stuff, and they are willing to take your money to tell you that this is going to protect you from coronavirus, and some scientist somewhere says that this works. Like, yeah, I know that scientist. I met that guy. He hangs out with the Nigerian prince who's asking for your social security number.
Yeah, for trying to get my credit card number for years.
Right, and the IRS guy who called you and tells you that you owe
they're
money
all related.
Right now, and he wants you to pay in gift cards. Like, they're all related to each other.
Oh, isn't it a sad society?
Yeah,
part of it?
Yeah,
it's terrible.
So remember what I had said earlier about the risk factors for people who are having more severe disease. These are, basically conditions. They're not other infections. There's diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease. If you have that, there's probably not much you can do about that right now, but living an overall healthy lifestyle is the best thing you can do for your immune system. There's no such thing as like a magic pill that will boost your immune system. I don't even know what that means. I work in HIV. Like, if I could fix everyone's immune system with one magic pill, but it doesn't work that way. It's not that simple. But I know a lot of people feel very strongly that taking a lot of vitamin C, or they take echinacea or other supplements, is going to help their immune system. It's probably not going to hurt you. What I would say, and probably people ask you this too, they say, what supplement should I take to improve my training, right? So, and there's not great data that any one particular thing works and is going to fix it. No. But let's say, best case scenario, there is some supplement that is going to help your immune system. Whatever tiny incremental amount that will do is nothing in comparison with eating well, avoiding processed food, avoiding sugars, getting enough sleep, trying to reduce stress, getting some exercise. All of that we know actually does protect your immune system. Okay. And so, as much as all of that moves the needle, any supplement is not going to make any difference. And it's the same thing with training, right? Where
there's no magic pill.
There's no magic pill. No. Like, if I'm going to take this, I'm going to be able to lift heavier. Well, maybe if you eat really well and train really hard, that will help you a lot more. So it's exactly the same. It's like
it's a lifestyle, right?
Yes,
so
exactly.
We're talking about so if this happens and you happen to be the person that's been sitting on the couch crushing, Doritos and pizzas and beer every day, maybe this is a wake-up call to make a lifestyle change.
Yeah, and I hope that that's something that comes out of this. If there's any good that can come out of this, is that people pay more attention to their health, so that you're healthy all the time, so that when something like this comes along, you're not at higher risk. And you are able to fight through it and are able to just have a mild illness that comes along. And that's true of everything, like cold, seasonal flus. I mean, we want people to be healthy, but these things happen. They're circulating in our environment. So just overall healthy living is what's going to do the most to protect you. And then taking those, what I think are, the reasonable measures for trying to clean your area until at least this kind of calms down a little bit. From the mental health aspect of it, this is one of the areas that sort of concerns me, because we can kind of joke about the social distancing and I'm just going to stay in my house. There are so many people in our community who are socially isolated, not by choice.
Right.
Either because they have mobility issues and can't get out of their house, or they have mental health issues, which makes it difficult for them to interact. And they have very few interactions with the public. And some of those interactions may now end because the store that they always run into, no one's saying hi to them, no one's giving them a high five. Think about people in your daily life who you just talk to, smile at, say hi to, shake hands with. That may be the only human interaction or human touch that they have in a day or in a week.
So then by affecting depression maybe, which is also going to drop their immune system and make them more, so it's a vicious cycle, right?
So this could be really, really hard on them. So one of the good things that I've seen come out on Facebook and Twitter is like adopt a grandma. So if there is a neighbor or someone who who maybe can't get out or is nervous to get out, check in on them. Maybe face to face isn't the right time for that, but give them a call or FaceTime them on the phone if they're into that. Just reach out.
Make them some dinner and put it on their front
step.
Exactly.
Just something.
Awesome.
Know you care.
Right. So that's one thing that I am worried about with this social isolation. But I think another way that we can kind of all help our mental health is to have as normal of a routine as possible. So I think likely schools are going to be closed, but that should make kids really happy, at least for a while. Parents maybe not so much.
Yeah, actually, our boys are not going to be very unhappy.
Yeah, they love school. I don't know where they get it from. It's not from me, but
friends.
So a day or two off is fun, like a snow day.
Yeah.
But
weeks
then once
you're
talking about weeks off, this could actually be really tough on kids, and parents may be reluctant to let kids hang out, play, go out. But trying to keep as much of a normal routine as possible, still going out when it's safe, when you can. And so we're talking about, coming here, working out. So exercise, that's actually a known thing to actually really help your immune system, help your overall health, of course. That's kind of a no-brainer at this point.
Mentally too, right?
Mentally too, right? So that gives you that
definitely.
release too, that release of the anxiety. It's also some of that social interaction. Even if you're staying a safe distance apart, you still get to see your friends. You still get to say hi. You still get to talk. And I think that that's really important, to still try to keep a normal routine, still try to keep seeing people, and don't isolate yourself if you don't have to. And unless you're quarantined,
obviously,
and if anything, try to reach out. Make that effort to reach out to people who are kind of isolated and maybe not so much by choice.
That's a great point.
That's a great point.
I know we work from home on Tuesday nights, and we were just from hearing the TV and just being home, it's just like it's overwhelming. And then we come here. And it's like right away you feel better, because we start seeing normal faces.
Right.
We're talking to our friends. We're seeing all these people that we love, and everybody's smiling. And we're working out. And then all of a sudden we leave here, we're like, oh my God, like we gotta get out of the house. I don't want to work from home now.
I know for our sanity, and our emotional well-being too. Obviously we have concerns. We're a business owner, and it's a social environment that we have here. So we want to make sure that everybody's healthy and safe.
Definitely.
And we've taken a lot of measures to make sure, we're bleaching the whole place, and we're separating classes into different rooms. And again, fortunately, we have a very large gym.
Yeah, we're very lucky.
We're so very blessed. But it got us down, and so to the point where Skip and I were like, okay, so we have to turn on the news from time to time because we need to know what the heck's going on in the world. But we're not going to have it on in the background while we're working. We're not going to have it on all the time. We're going to put on music. We're going to turn our phone off at X amount of time. We're not going to look at Facebook for long periods of time or anything like that, because it really the amount of media out there that's inaccurate as well is just so overwhelming.
Yeah.
And it can bring you down into a spiraling little hole
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So socially being able to say, okay, cut the limit on the social media, don't listen to the news all day, try and live your life,
Yeah, like you said, being around people you're used to seeing and just keeping a little more distance and trying to do your normal routines, like working out, felt great.
Just Skip the other, we were working out and Skip went to high five me and I elbowed him. He goes,
I'm
like, well, I'm just like conditioned.
Yeah, for the people in your house.
That's
like,
all
no,
different.
I
think it was just an excuse, but whatever.
So I think working out is
good.
actually still, if it's a part of your lifestyle, it's a very important thing to keep doing because it's important for your overall health. I think it's important for your mental health, both from a social aspect and just from that release that you get to just unload some of that stress, because you always feel better after working out.
Well, we saw that today. We were deadlifting today, and like half the group came in. They were so tense, and you could tell, there are people. So talking to them, I could see the tension. By the end of the class, everybody's like, "Oh man, that was great!" And you see like two totally different demeanors just from that release. Yeah. And it's like, for me, that's the best part of my day. Just seeing people like, okay, cool. Now they're a little calmer. They can, go out and deal with the day a little better.
We do what we do.
And we're so lucky living where we are here, because in the cities, I understand people have a lot more anxiety about going out because everything is crowded. Yeah. If you want to get on public transportation, you're on a subway with a lot of people.
You can't
you're
distance.
on a bus with a lot of people. It's really hard to distance.
Sure.
But here we can go for a walk down by the inlet, along the beach. Yes, there's people. There's still human beings. Everyone is out. The zombie apocalypse has not happened. Everything is okay. And it just kind of reminds you that, life is going to be disrupted, but it will go back to normal, and just try to keep a normal routine as much as you possibly can. As far as I know, stores and restaurants are staying open. And from what I've heard, they're trying their best to keep things clean. If you're uncomfortable with that, and we talked about this earlier, go get takeout.
Yeah, totally.
And that's totally safe, right?
Yes.
Like,
totally.
It's
Your
not,
favorite restaurant, you wanted there after this.
Right.
And it's super important to like support them. And if you're not comfortable, figure out a way to support them.
Yeah. And if it's someplace that, you like going to, but maybe it's not a takeout place, or maybe it's not a, what have you. If they sell gift cards, buy a gift card so that it's something that helps these businesses that might be taking a hit during this time to sustain themselves. And then, use the gift card when you feel comfortable.
Totally.
So, we're definitely always stronger together as
100%.
a community. Not only in our gym, but in our town as well. So anything that we can do to help everyone. I know that I made Skip go out and buy a case of Corona beer.
It was the most pathetic thing.
Because I felt so bad for the Corona
I said,
beer.
you really want me to go buy you Corona beer? You don't even drink beer.
They're taking a hit.
Yeah, no, totally taking a hit.
It's completely irrational.
It is.
And I'm like, if everybody did their little part, then this stuff wouldn't be as difficult to deal with. So, whether it's go out and buy Corona beer, or getting takeout, or just living your daily life and washing your hands a whole heck of a lot more.
We have a saying we're using now, is making it temporary normal.
Yes.
It's trying to make things as normal as it can be in this temporary time, and just understanding it's temporary. And that's how we explain it to our boys too. Like, this is a temporary time. It's a blip in time. Yeah. It's a blip in your life. All you got to do is stay positive, do the right thing, stay healthy, and it'll be okay. So I think we're going to wrap it there, so it's not too long. But I want to really, really thank you, Elizabeth, for coming in.
Thank you.
It was amazing.
I'm so happy for the opportunity.
Oh, it was awesome.
Elizabeth, would it be okay if we touch base with you again?
Absolutely.
All right.
Great.
Everything seems to evolve pretty quickly.
Yeah, and things will change. They're going to change over the next week, 2 weeks. So
Totally.
If people are having questions, we can do a follow-up.
That would be amazing.
Wonderful.
All right, thank you guys,
Elizabeth.
and have a great day, everybody. Stay safe, stay healthy, and work out.